preparing the live stream to the meeting. So
Okay.
here we go.
All right. Are we ready?
Give it just 10 more seconds
Okay.
just to be sure. Where's that mic?
Okay. All right. So for the benefit of the YouTube recording, this is a special meeting of the Sydney City School Board of Education for the purpose of passing the necessary resolutions for placing an emergency
Here we
levy
go.
on the November ballot.
Give it just
Okay. So, all right. So the first item up is the actual motion to adopt the attached resolution declaring it necessary to levy a tax for a period of 10 years in order to avoid an operating deficit. Said levy to be placed before the electors on the November 3rd, 2020 ballot with the first collection in 2021.
Also move.
I'll second.
Okay, now, if you'd like, we can have some discussion, if any, for this. Basically, like what I had said before, is we've pushed up against the deadline to place this on the ballot, which is the reason for this emergency meeting. The language, and I've attached that in the on the agenda, the ballot language, or for the resolution. So this is the same millage, the 7.3 for $3.5 million that we had in May and in August.
Okay, so what's the difference between doing this versus the income tax?
One of the things that we have to be, even if in the future we consider income tax, one thing you do have to remember with an income tax is, so we passed this one in the November election. Let's say it's successful and it passes. We begin collections next year. With an income tax, if you passed it this year, it could start the following year, but it takes 18 months till you reach full collections.
Okay.
Whereas with the property tax, you get full collections in the first year. So there's a lag in how quickly you receive the new revenue for the item.
Okay.
Mike, does this levy expire in 10 years?
This would be a 10-year, correct?
Do
Would
we
expire
ever
10
go
years.
for a continuing? Or is there
Emergency levies cannot be continuing.
what can't?
Emergency levies cannot be continuing. The longest term is 10 years.
And why do we always have to go for emergency
The
levy?
reason we look at an emergency levy is based on where our other millage is at. So for our residential and agricultural millage, we're at what's called the 20 mil floor. And so there's a piece in the legislation for levies that says that school districts cannot fall below 20 mil voted millage. So once you hit so anything over 20 mils, each time there's a reevaluation, the millage can get rolled back below its original voted. But your total millage cannot go below 20 mils. Now, the advantage of that is from that point forward, once you hit the 20 mils, every time it's under reevaluation or training update and it increases due to inflation, you can get incremental increase in your revenue because they can't roll it back any farther. But when they look at that total millage, emergency millage is not counted in that total. So it's outside of that. So basically what I'm saying is if we pass traditional millage and was 7.3, if next year we were in an update year, they would then roll that millage back. Okay, so it's a strategy for many school districts when they're at the 20 mil floor, from a revenue standpoint as to whether you do traditional millage or emergency millage. And for us, it makes sense from a revenue standpoint to pass emergency millage.
Okay.
Can we put both on?
Can you put both on? Bob and I had talked about that, and we were exploring having like one issue with both components, which I believe that we can do. And we've talked that if we're not successful in November, that's the approach we should look at taking for like the next time we put it on next year. We were just afraid with all the stuff going on, general election, all the stuff with schools, and then trying to explain a new kind of concept, people would be lost.
I don't know, like the arguments for people and the property taxes, I don't know that.
The difficult thing with an income tax to get people to understand too, in the two times that we've put it on the ballot for an income tax, it was not even close to passing. And I think part of the thing they need to remember is when you put the income tax on, you've now excluded all the businesses.
Right.
That the distribution of who pays changes.
Okay.
And we got so much industry in this, in our district, that's a big shift from where the revenue comes from when you're asking for the same dollar, if you will. So if you're still looking for $3.5 million, who pays that $3.5 million is very different for an income tax than it is for property tax millage.
What percentage is that coming from agriculture though? Because as far as the farming industry, this isn't a good time for them either.
Well,
You have to also think of the number of voters in the agricultural industry. How many voters are out there
well,
versus the number of voters that are out there that are working for income tax.
and I somewhat would argue the thing on the agriculture piece, somewhat just because they just recently had, in general, their property gets reduced by the CAUV to start with. So it's reduced for less taxable value than the residential property owner. And as of late, the legislature has kind of listened to some of their arguments, and the CAUV values were changed within the last year or so to even reduce it more than what it had been in previous years. So
Okay.
I understand their argument if you're comparing to income to property tax.
Mhm.
Our biggest pool is residential.
Right.
That's our biggest pot of taxpayers when it comes to property tax.
I definitely think there's some room for discussion of some sort of a combination levy. Unfortunately, with the time crunch, we wouldn't be able to do that today. But I do think that there's some room for some discussion on that. I also like the fact that my experience has seen that when districts bounce back and forth between different kinds of levies, without a good education piece along with it, it's really difficult to pass something. So Mike and I talked about that today and felt like that if this doesn't pass in November, then we have the discussion of maybe a combination levy of both, of a property and an income, and we really go full bore on educating the public as to what this looks like, because we would have more time, because next year the special election would be in May, not in March, because there's no presidential primary. So then we would actually have a good 5 to 6 months of really trying to educate the public as to what this new kind of levy could look like.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
we're not dismissing the idea at all. It's just that
No.
there's no way I don't think we could educate the public properly between now and then. And I think we need to at least try this one more time. Because if it does fail, we're going to have to start looking at making some more cuts, because that's $3.5 million that we're not going to get for
Right.
next year. Mandy, this is what you say. If there's no more discussion, you call for a vote.
I know, but I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
I was pausing.
Okay.
Is the amount, can we lower it at all? Or are we stuck at this amount?
Well, we talked about that again this morning as well. And I'm going to let Mike take over from this point, but we did actually have that discussion in the last hour.
Okay.
Here's my biggest fear with trying to do something of that nature is we've all along said that this is the minimum amount that we can ask for with all the cuts that we've done. We've said we've done all these cuts and this is the amount we still need to ask for. And my fear is all of a sudden now you come back and you lower it. And the big question going forward is, well, then why did you ask for the $3.5 million to start with?
Right.
But I also think it's important to acknowledge what some people are saying out there. And this really is a horrible time for any kind of monetary changes for anyone. But I don't want to also have to come back and ask for money again. So that's where I'm torn there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, at this point, I guess the only thing we can do is go forward and see how it goes again and then come up with a plan B after that. So
If we need one, I mean, I don't know. It'd be great to hope that we can, be successful.
Have we ever had like open meetings with the public? I was trying to remember. Have we ever, like at the Legion or at the school, or?
We have done that in the past. And it seems that unfortunately they were not very well attended. It seems like the people that come there are already the people that support you.
That support it.
They're coming to support you in it, and you rarely get that cross section of people you're trying to
Get to vote.
And that's not to say that we won't do it, that we won't try it again this fall.
right.
Again, with everything that was going on with COVID, and I'm not even sure we'd still even be able to do something like that, but we certainly can try.
Okay.
We've tried a couple of different strategies. This one turned out better than the last one. But again, not enough to pass. So maybe what we do have now is we have a really good base of people through the one Facebook group that I think we could really utilize for the next election, because there's close to 1,000 people that's in that particular group. And I think that we can mobilize those folks this time a little better now that we actually have that good base.
okay, well, if there's no further discussion, can we take a vote?
Great job.
Meininger.
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
Croft,
Yes.
and the motion carries. Okay, moving on. The second item on here is just a note, more of a so that we publicly allow to know that the county auditor's office has I've been in discussion with them this morning. We talked about what we were going to pass or potentially pass today. So they were able to certify that particular amount. So this is to note within this meeting that prior to passing the second resolution, that we did receive the county auditor's certification of the 7.3 mils,
Okay.
Okay.
which then brings us to item number 2. And that is the motion to adopt the attached resolution determining to proceed with the submission of a tax levy to the electors of Sydney City School District at the November 3rd, 2020 election in order to avoid an operating deficit estimated by the county auditor to be 7.3 mils for a period of 10 years.
So moved.
I'll second.
And so this is, as we have done in the past, it's just the second resolution now that just determines to proceed with the original resolution we passed of the resolution of necessity.
There is no discussion. Can we have a vote?
Lot,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Croft,
Yes.
motion carries. And that is the items that cover that. And then we just had real quickly, we had invited Jason. We had a project that potentially can take place here. So we just kind of wanted to fill you guys in. There's nothing required of you today. We're going to bring that at a later meeting. But for those of you that were in attendance today, we kind of wanted to kind of fill you in with what's going on. So Jason. You're muted.
All right, am I good now?
There you
Yeah.
go. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, I think you muted me, Mike. That wasn't me.
Oh,
So anyway, we have an opportunity to use a state energy grant. And it's through this company that we've met with a few times, and Bob and Mike and I have met. And what it is it's energy to save for replacing our lights. We still have the old lights that are, costing us a lot more money than what we need to be paying. So we can get LED lights put in for such a great deal right now, and we can use local contractors, which we've already met with 5 of them. And a couple of them had to back out because they couldn't meet the timelines to complete it. And actually the lowest person was Area Electric, but then when they saw the scope of work and what needed to be completed by September 30th to get these grants, because it's a P&L grant where you have to have it done by a certain amount of time and the money is allotted for that. So what they did was they looked at it and seen if they could complete it. They're so busy that it was tough for them to get the guys to come in and complete it at that quick of a task. So the second highest bidder was CJ Electric. And so Plug Smart, who is technically our general contractor in this, called them and went over it with them. And what that means is basically we can replace the entire lighting project for the middle school, the high school, and the Board of Ed, and even possibly another elementary, and have virtually the majority of it paid for. If we were to do this ourselves, it'd be roughly $500,000 or more, depending on what building we chose of an elementary. But with all the discounts from the DP&L grants that we're getting from Dickman, it's you get the discount plus 50% right now before it winds out. And after September 30th, these grants disappear. So we won't get them anymore. So it's either we do this or we lose out on an opportunity to utilize a lot of other folks' money to get things done that's going to save us money. Basically, as soon as we put the light in, we're saving money for the district up to 50%. And basically they're saying the energy is going to be 50% less, which would save us a lot of money yearly. So basically the job would be around $500,000 with all the grants and the rebates. We could get this completely done for between $180,000 to $200,000, our cost, a savings of, roughly 300 grand. And that money's going to be paid back. As everybody knows, you put LED lights in, it saves you money pretty instantly. Probably in 3 to 5 years, we would gain that money back as well. And we're free and clear. The project was basically done for free in a few years, 3 to 5 years. It depends on how we use them. With being a school, we're on, we're off. It's just a matter of usage, and we would have to see in a year how long it actually would take. But that gives you an idea. So basically, that's what it is. We need to act on it pretty quick because there is a timeline, as it has to be done by September 30th. And basically, it's first come, first serve money. And this grant runs out September 30th. If we don't get it done and completed, so CJ was able to do that and be able to get this job done so we could get this money. So basically, that's everything I have. Does anybody have any questions?
And just two things. One, and the reason why we're bringing you up to speed now is that the project's going to have to start before the next board meeting. So we just
Right.
have to be aware. And the other thing about this is the way it's done. We're able to have it broken out between what's done in cafeterias and related food service stuff from other. So out of the food service fund, what was it, about $45,000?
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
So it's even less.
Yeah,
than
basically, general funds would be 135.
So
Didn't we do
Yeah,
something
basically-
like this recently?
We did it sporadically, but they were only like $15,000 grants. So
Okay.
it was small ticket items in different buildings. And we just did one replacing the lights in the middle school gyms. We used the grant to do that. So, yeah.
it wasn't until Plug Smart contacted us, actually, right, Jason, that we knew about this bigger grant, this one that's
Right. And
that's kind of
what
a
makes
maxi
it,
grant.
yeah, you have to qualify for the grant. And Sydney is one of those schools with our, free and reduced numbers and everything that we have going on. We qualify for it. So they reached out and say, you guys meet the criteria. This is a great opportunity. Basically, here's $215,000 that they're giving us from the grant. And it just so happens Dickman with this LED project through DPNL is they're already having discounts on lights, but now you get a discount plus 50%. So basically the lights alone were $170,000 to $180,000. Our purchase price is $69,000. So we're getting such a huge discount. It's a no-brainer because we're getting it so cheap we can replace all these lights and it's going to save us a lot of money in our energy.
Yeah, the payback on LED lights, because we did it in my previous district, the payback on LED lights is around 3.5 years. So after 3.5 years, we've saved that much energy costs.
So is there a reason why we don't need to vote on this today?
On an emergency meeting, we can't put it on the
You
agenda.
can't put it on there. Okay, gotcha.
And we want to be able to fill in Bob Smith and Jason
Right.
about this too in advance. So
But when it comes to the meting, it will already be in progress.
we'll
So
be in progress. Exactly.
it won't matter what we vote.
Well, kind
Yeah.
of. It's kind of one of those
We
things
have to
that
start off
we're kind of just hoping that the general feeling from the three of you will be good enough to where we don't have to worry about that.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Well, is this going to add to arguments about spending money? That's my only question. I know it saves us money in so long, but
Right. I mean, we still have to continue to operate.
right.
Our buildings are going to be here 3.5 years from now, whether a levy gets passed or not. And if we can save the public money by doing this now, it only makes sense to do it. I mean, this is free money that it's not going to be there 3 years from now.
Right.
And
I
for our
agree.
part, Jason and I have already had discussions too about kind of rearranging existing projects that we have budgeted.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, obviously we budget general fund money and
Right.
PI money for projects every year.
Okay.
So we're working this in within those budget parameters.
Okay. Okay. Do we have to do anything then?
Nope, it's just
Nope.
informational. Now we're just ready to adjourn if you would like to do that.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn? Do I
Also
ask that?
good. I'll move.
I'll second. Did we already do that, part C, resolution to proceed?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember voting on it. Okay, well.
You did.
You did.
You did,
We
and you
did.
said yes, just so you
All
know.
righty. Meininger,
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
and Croft.
Yes.
And we are adjourned. Thank you very
Ladies,
much.
thank you so much for doing this.
Yep.
This was a quick lifesaver when we saw those
Yeah.
deadlines today. So
You're welcome.
Hey, you're welcome.
Okay.
All righty. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
bye-bye.
everybody.
Where did it go?